We are overrated. This is overrated. What is overrated? An Overwatch analysis shows stupid. Took it the other way. Okay, emergency episode. Episode 5. Emergency because Caracol needs to tell people that he's right again. What are you right about, Caracol?
Okay, so it's not what I wrote about. It's something that I noticed in the past when the Overwatch Winter Premiere was started to happen back in December. I mean, it was like probably like the 5th of December 2016 or the 6th. So, anyways, now from the very start of my analysis in the Overwatch scene, I tried to figure out a way how the Overwatch League would happen. So I tried from the very beginning to find those milestones, those stepping stones that Blizzard would have to take so as to create the Overwatch League experience that they want to create. And one of them was basically how they would test the formats that they had in mind, that they are the best ones, or how they would find the best format so as to have for the league, to prepare for the league, because essentially the competition, one of the foundations of it is the format, how the teams will face each other. I mean, we have seen in the past big band drafts, map drafts. We have seen the Apex format. We have seen formats who had like weird rules, like if the map is tied, then you have to replay the entirety of the map. So all these small things, they have to be figured out before we enter the Overwatch League. And this announcement of the Overwatch Contenders reminded me something. Essentially, it proved me right again, because I thought back in the day, and I had an article devoted to it, and I tweeted about it again, that the Overwatch Winter Premiere was just the preparation for the Overwatch League, or just a testing ground. And now I am certain of it, because as we will show in the next in the show, it's like even the graphics as represented by Blizzard for the Overwatch Contenders tournament, they are the same as they were in the Overwatch Winter Premiere, which rang a bell. Like, Bowie, we got it. Anyways, so back in the December, now, even before, you had all these things happening, like, for example, Blizzard denying tournament organizers to get licenses or whatever, just from seeing the Overwatch Winter Premiere production, it got me thinking, like, you have a broadcasting organization that has no previous experience to big tournament organizing. So Overwatch was like their first big tournament, and with a nice amount of money in it, like $75,000, I think, $75,000. So it was like their breakout to the broadcasting scene. At the same time, I was like, if Blizzard wants to find a way to test their format, they can't do it with an organizer that has already experience and they want to run their show their own way. They need to find like some organizer that they can put the rules in, and he just arranges the production show, the production value, and how the casters, what they will show, interviews with the players, the LAN event, whatever, all this other stuff. But how the game will be played, how the teams will be fit into the pool for the tournament, all these things should be organized by Blizzard. And it went that way with Overwatch Winter Premiere, because we had, as we can see in the image we will show, that we had an extensive open qualifier phase where we had like 4 days of qualifiers, where the winning team of the qualifier day went on and competed in the tournament. It automatically was promoted to the tournament event, and the second phase actually, which was like the group play. Now, next to that, and we need to skip to the next image for a bit. It was like the other teams that were after you have like 4 days of open play. So you have 4 teams decided, but you need 8 teams. So the other 4 teams were to be decided on a points based acquired by their map records and their match records and, you know, some kind of algorithmic evaluation of their progress and the results in the open play phase. And therefore, you got like the next 4 teams were to be decided by the points. In the Overwatch Contenders right now, we have some kind of similar setup, not entirely the same, but you see, for example, that you have like open qualifiers again. We will probably show these images later on, but let me say this for now, that we have open qualifiers again, that will continue on to group play, and then we continue on to another day of group play, and then we have like the playoffs. The same exact setup as it was back in the Overwatch Winter Premiere. Now, the interesting part this time is that there is no limit to the teams involved. I mean, in the Overwatch Winter Premiere, it was like 64 teams for the open qualifier. Now there is no limit. Everything is everyone and their mother can participate in the tournament, at least in the first phase. And also, there are no teams invited. I mean, there is no priority in teams. For example, movie star riders or teams in the Europe that we know they are strong because they have great showings in the online tournaments held in Europe in this short period from the 1st of 2017. They will still go through the process like most other teams. Maybe they will get some seating advantage, but in some case they won't get even that, although they have proven themselves in competitions against admittedly very strong teams, as we have seen also in offline competitions, like for example Misfits, who went on and played both in IM Gyeonggi and in Apex Season 2. So, and previously, obviously, in DreamHack, the old Misfits and you know, the Overwatch Open and Atlantic Showdown. I mean, it was they have participated in so many LANs already, and they still don't get any favorite handling from Blizzard. I mean, they will have to go through the same process as some kind of team that was formed in under 5 minutes from the announcement and got signed under a very weird name like Alpha Squad or Fatty Platits. Or, I mean, you can see all this.
Guilty pleasure to indulge in these, right? Like, the names are ridiculous at times.
Well, at least the Overwatch scene has some, you know, imaginary people and, you know, creative, at least in the names.
Yeah.
So you have these two things. You have a league format that you haven't seen in the West before, that you have all these phases of, you know, open play, group play, group play A, group play B, that leads to 4 teams in the playoffs. The same exact process that you have in the Overwatch Contenders back in Overwatch Winter Premiere. Then you have a broadcaster that essentially is just a broadcaster. It is not the traditional tournament organizers like DreamHack, for example, or E-League that hosted the Overwatch Open, or ESL, for example. They have, you know, they have their own agenda going for a show, for a tournament. We want some kind of, you know, viewership. You have like our ads. We have all these things that are going into it, and also we have like our rules. We want pick ban map draft system, or we want like teams to be able to whatever, like play 4 matches in succession, or these things. Yeah. Whereas in this group play phase that we will see in Overwatch Contenders, and we saw back in December and January of 2017, you had like these round robins that were really extended series of teams playing the same teams over and over again, like in a league system where, you know, it's not clear from the start how well or badly a team will do based on one game or whatever. I mean, you have to go through the same opponents time and again, and if the patch sticks, maybe, now this was an epiphany, maybe that this is why they kept that patch for so long, from November 15th to January 24th. Essentially a few days before the finals of the Overwatch Winter Premiere, which was the longest patch duration ever witnessed in the first year of Overwatch. It was like 2 months of pure playtime, and many people were discussed with it, like in the ranked scene, and, you know, they stopped playing, and that's why there was so many tremendous changes and people starting to sign where other people drop off. And anyways, so this is the third thing, and there's a fourth thing about the Overwatch Winter Premiere which really rang a bell, and I think this is something that you have a lot of things to say about, like the map pools. So the Overwatch Winter Premiere started on the on the premises that teams will get select the map pools. It will be just the traditional old and loved pick ban map draft system, somehow like maybe a variation of it, like the ACL Overwatch Static Showdown, like have a narrowed map pool, but you get to pick ban maps in this. And then the MLG and IM came out, and Blizzard says, no guys, you're going to get a predetermined map pool for the entirety of the tournament. And everyone went, no, we don't like it. Like,
yeah. If you remember, it was first MLG only having it, and MLG also not having Koreans, and everyone's like, that tournament is far less interesting now, or rather, I guess, competitive in the sense that that not the highest level of play is shown, and the highest level of play is also not facilitated by the pick and map draft system. And then Blizzard went out and was like, I am Gyeonggi, no, yeah. So obviously, now in hindsight that Blizzard or Activision has acquired MLG, they probably didn't want them to look like the bad guys that had this, less liked tournament system. It's actually, I think if I remember correctly, that was the time we started talking to each other based on that, right? I think there's this reoccurring theme with other than, I think, Volamel, like 90% of the people I meet in Overwatch, I have a huge disagreement with, and basically feel disgusted with their opinions, and then I eventually come around. Maybe something, mentally ill I'm revealing about myself here, but now in general, my I thought about this a lot recently. If I'm just, if it's honestly just my age resisting to change, and if I just like the way it is, and I still remain that map drafts have the possibility of delivering higher level series, and also, I mean, it kind of, I'm sort of okay with it now. Call it Stockholm syndrome, because we don't get any other any other scenarios now in tournaments, but
yeah,
I mean, in general, I guess I also said in the comment I made under your blog post that I thought this was plausible, and I think you were totally right in saying that this was something that Blizzard would pursue with the writings were on the wall, right? And yeah, I guess it's fine now. I don't hate it with every fiber of my being anymore, but...
Well, they settled for a middle ground between, the predetermined map pools and some kind of map rotation, so it's not necessarily bad in a sense. But again, in a game so complex like Overwatch, it's really hard to say, for example, we need this game mode in the map pool and this game mode out of the map pool. And then in another scenario, when you go from best of 3 to best of 5, for example, you get to play this game mode as well. Surprise, boy. Yeah. And the thing is, if you have to play like 10 best of 3s, and then you get to play 1 best of 5 or 1 best of 7 in the end, like, how do you prepare for such a long, discrepancy between, you have to prepare for 10 maps straight with best of 3s and these 3 game modes in, and then you have also to see in the future and prepare for that opponent that you don't know yet, but you will face in the semifinals or whatever. So you need to prepare in advance for also that. Maybe the map rotation with 8 or 10 map pools that they try to do with Overwatch Contenders is the solution, because the teams can practice on 8 or 10 maps. But again, I really find it hard, since you have also the complexity of the heroes that you can use on certain maps, and with every patch that changes, you also get to discover the heroes that were not used in the past on certain maps, but now they can have some kind of use. So it's really hard for me to say that this is the best approach. I also had my article about the Overwatch Apex season, where I proposed some kinds of changes to that format to make it more fair. I believe there are more changes that can be made to make it even more fair and even more engaging, in order to get rid of any kind of RNG. But I can see why people like Monty or Blizzard or players do not want this kind of, it's totally another game, it's totally another kind of tournament format. And maybe they don't want, because they like to go to something more traditional. Anyways, now the interesting part for me was like, okay, you get you get the announcement, the Overwatch League will happen. So after that, which was like, you saved us. I mean, most players was like, we're saved. We get to be signed on teams, and we get to play for money, for for standard money, because we will be having contracts and benefits. And it was like the the industrial revolution of the esports scene. Like everyone gets to to be happy and rich. Or the American team, for example, gets get your shovel and go to the river, and there the gold awaits you. And then you see like the Overwatch Contenders makes almost every team equal, and some upsets. And you mentioned this, like for example, I think in the best of threes there can be so many upsets, that especially because it's online play as well. So you can, it's not like you get to play offline or somehow you get to play online. Yeah. A power outage or something like a big lag spike for some player that's crucial at that time. It can cost you a map. And
I mean, let's just say somewhere in Russia, when that Overwatch Contenders thing went out, just a monitor hit the wall very hard, right? And with such precision, like, how can you not be super mad if you're Shadowburn, right? Like,
yeah, because how do you play with FaZe in America?
You have to bring him over. You have to bring him over. Get it done now. You just can't play, right?
Yeah, I think so. But anyways, and this was really interesting to me because, okay, you get the announcement, and then you go to the MLG Vegas format where you have like, Blizzard like the map pools for the Overwatch World Cup. It was like, okay, we got this working, we got our standard map pools. No one said anything. People enjoyed it. People enjoyed seeing Ilios played like in 4 out of 5 matches in the semi-final, in the playoffs phase. I mean,
I have to say that's the one map I don't miss, because they limited the map pool, right? And Ilios is gone. That's great. Like, thank God. King's Row had to die for this, but that's fine. Like, if you have to throw Ilios off a cliff and you have to sort of have King's Row embrace it and take it down with him, that's fine. That's a just sacrifice, right?
Yeah. So now the interesting part was like how many changes Blizzard did in the Overwatch Winter Premiere. It wasn't like they only changed the map pool after all this discomfort of players zone and the cries from competitive community or whatever. They also allowed for teams inside the tournament to change rosters, which was like something that never happened before. I mean, when you go into a tournament, the tournament organizer makes sure that there's some kind of roster log. I mean, you can't really bring some other player from whatever region you want and put him in for one game and then drop him out in the next. Like, this goes beyond. This blew my mind. But I think this was the progenitor of the the 7th up to 8th man rosters that we see now being introduced in the Overwatch Contenders. Like, they were testing how, for example, because you had like this repetition of games. You had like group plays for 3 days straight. So essentially, you had like the same team facing the same team for 3 days straight. I mean, obviously, in some cases, you're going to spice things up. So if you prolong this and you go for like a league format, then obviously you would like the next time you face a team to have prepared another strategy. And if your map pool is narrowed down, so you can't like have the same players play on another map, so that's the differentiating factor for you. You have to have them like do roster changes or roster swaps, substitution or whatever, so as to spice things up. Yeah. And this was the thing that got me thinking, wow, now we're going to see like more than 6-man rosters. It's like, you don't get to do this without, if you're a serious organizer. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah, I think Blizzard in general likes to think. So, for instance, if you think about win conditions, right, and of established genres, they don't care for them that much. So for instance, with Heroes of the Storm, it's like, okay, you get rid of items, but how you make up for the diversity is having more, different map types and therefore very different scenarios where people can't, over practice one map type, because every map type is different, right? And that's exactly like a different approach as to how traditional FPS went, because nobody in CS was like, my entry fragger against Fnatic is better than my other entry fragger, and I will use them against, FaZe Clan or something. That is just nothing that, crosses the mind of a CSGO team. But that is not set in stone. That's not the rule of the universe in that case, right?
No, it's not.
And especially it makes sense in a class-based system where if you dedicate more time to it, and some classes or heroes need this, extra time because they have such a high skill cap. If you have a map where you bring out your Tracer, and in another map you, for instance, can't play Tracer but only Genji, if you have two specialists, right? That's
why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's you can question if that is good for fan acquisition and how they fans interact with the team. But other than that, it's not really like you probably have to break your preconceived notions of how wins should be gained, and then just accept it as such. And I think once it runs a little bit longer, it will also grow on people. I think even in an interview I did with Chips High, and he said, I don't really like, having more than 6 people on my team. I think we should just overcome now obviously they have two different, like, they changed 2 players, right? And have Louis, also...
Changed to one, and then they go to another one.
Yes, exactly, yeah. But... yeah, it's just a different mindset that you have to have in Overwatch, and I don't think that's particularly bad.
No, it's not particularly bad, but let's roll some of the images for the Overwatch Contenders. So you can see, for example, that you have, like, in future open divisions, not in this one, where you have everyone and their mother be taking part into it. In future open divisions, you will have, like, teams that try to get to the competitive scene, to the professional scene, to the Overwatch League, but starting from Masters level. Right now, this is the image that they promoted, but this will be in the future.
Wait,
so
did they take our show icon for that? They stole it. Let's copyright that. No, go on. Sorry.
This show is Blizzard approved. Like that's no. It's like it's a generic icon. Anyways, so the thing is that if you're going to appeal to a broader audience, and that's what I think Blizzard are going to do, then you need to allow for, like, 7-man rosters, 8-man rosters, and anything like that. For example, it's no coincidence that soccer or football is the biggest sport of all times. If you imagine, for example, how many connections 11 players can make, for example, to a population, or things like that. I mean, if you want to host a league in any kind of environment for soccer or for football, then you need, like, 16 teams with 11 people at least, which is like 166 people or something like that. So
yeah.
which is a higher number than you go on, for example, for a league in basketball, which is like 90 people, 80 people or something, 80 people or something like that. So when you go into engagement, then afterwards, like, how many people then you have to have for reserves? And how many people you want, like, to go into the leagues in the future, and they're going to take part into it? Then you obviously having teams with 11 people on creates a very bigger environment, a very bigger talent pool than having rosters with 5 people or 6 people on.
Yes. Because
essentially you get, like, people with different skills to have a chance at filling that one spot you need to participate in a league. And this was really interesting to see with them doing this. And in this season, I mean, some things will go off, certainly, like, straight off the bat. I don't see why they couldn't make, like, from this and first season, only masters or above can join to participate in the qualifiers. I like, do we surely think that people in bronze or or in gold will have, like, a better shot at it than masters or grandmasters? No. And essentially you're going to have people having played in team environments in online tournaments already participating in this pool. I don't think so. Anyways, I think that this is their direction. They want to engage as many people as possible, and this is the best way because you get like everyone to have a shot and everyone's engaged. And this probably will, you know, after the first season where you have like more restricted environment, then they go on and create a more coherent talent pool, for example, with people that already have some kind of skills to throw into teams that need some change or whatever. But again, you also need to consider, for example, will teams need a change after first season if they already have 7-man or 8-man roster? I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's these mind games and all these small details that go into.
I mean, in the first place, it's kind of strange that they started with master players, right? It's. I mean, now the 75k people sort of make sense that Bobby Kotick mentioned, but like, if you look at professional players currently, for instance, playing in Apex, and compare them to the average top 500 players, that difference is almost insurmountable. Now, never mind Grandmasters, and obviously Masters is like, you could probably field a pro team with 5 players and they would win against a team of 6 average master players, right? They're just so much better. So it's more like almost like a PR move than actual, you know, because now attaining masters, if you invested a certain amount of time, feels doable almost for everyone, right? And that feels like, yeah, I gained my spot now, and now I can participate in these you know, big league situations, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't need also to worry that you need to be top 500, which is a really restricted portion. I mean, in Masters, you're above a certain rank rates, and in these rank rates, I mean, you can have like as many people as you want because there is no restriction or limit.
I mean, also, just think of how annoying currently, or how annoyed pro players are about these things of like triple queuing and everything. If you actually had only top 500 players participating, then this would, you know, encourage people to really game the system. It would get very nasty. I can tell you Blizzard has that experience because, for instance, from World of Warcraft, where I came from, where only like the top qualified teams on the tournament PTR went to the BlizzCon qualifier, I can tell you that became very nasty really quickly with, you know, at the in the night, win trading back and forth, you know, because of how this MMR system worked, and then it was very, very fishy how people arrived this, and that way they just circumvent that issue entirely and just have the level of play figure it out, right?
Now, one thing I noticed, and it's shown in the map graph that they provided, like, you know, they show only 2 regions, and it's the North America one and the European one, but they also include the European region. I think a lot more countries, at least in their official rule set, they tell them, like, for example, Egypt, Israel, Qatar, and South Africa. And now the problem is, it's like they're not mentioned on the map, obviously, because this was probably some generic map that they threw randomly together. They didn't like go for accuracy on the map.
Yeah.
But like, do we think that South Africans have more, like, how can they compete against if the server is in Europe, or where's the server located so as to have like this kind of, you know, consistency in online gaming and whatever?
Yeah, that's half a world away, right? That's how, yeah.
That's on the other side of the world, basically. It's like if you're in Scandinavia, in top, or in Sweden or whatever, and the other guy's in South Africa, it's like the other side of the world. I mean, and obviously some other countries are missing, for example, Mexico or whatever. Like, they were shown back in the day in the announcement, but now they're missing. So this means that this league will slowly progress. Yes. But if it's like the Apex Season 1, where you have like the Apex Challengers, Overwatch Contenders, do you see the connection there? Yeah. Like, well, obviously, I think that Koreans are ahead in terms of arranging a proper environment. So I think that it's good for Blizzard that they noticed it and they try to implement it in the West, and the way they try to do it, like expanding the player pool and whatever. Now, but the other thing is, how is this expanded then to regions like South America or other regions, because it's like it's basically like the League of Legends system, where you have like the NA LCS, you have the EU LCS, you have like the Korean LCS, and then you just have a Worlds event.
Yeah.
But you will have to create another region for South America.
Yeah.
And
I think what they did, is it in
Australia
Thailand
as well?
Is it in Thailand where they have that studio? You know, that where they have like a studio set up. There's a special name for it. I think that also serves as a prototype for these regional events, right? So
well, they obviously have 4 of them undergoing, because they will be featuring the group phase of the Overwatch World Cup in 4 regions of the.
Yeah, that's true.
So they have this underway, at least on some level.
Yeah, and they're probably going to multi-purpose that for.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of it is really, you know, picking and prodding how the system can work, and then just look at what works, what doesn't, which systems do we need, which places do we need. And
well, obviously you don't have like the same internet connection in all places of the world, so this is a big factor. I mean, you can't really host a tournament in any place of the on the planet right now. You have to have like a good network infrastructure, so as to get quality production out of it and all this stuff. So it will be really limited at first. Essentially, it will always be limited for the top event. I'm not sure if it is going to be always in BlizzCon or whatever. I mean, also the Overwatch League will not take part in the BlizzCon event. It should be something different. But all these things will be probably figured out in the first season. So my hopes for this first season, it's like my hopes for the Overwatch Winter Premiere. We're going to see how things will play out. Many things will be tested. Obviously, Blizzard has their own things and their own agenda, but it's not like it will be a big failure right off the bat. And even if it is, like, even if we see some kind of upset, or if we know the winner, like from this very moment, like it's going to be envious or whatever in the West at least, or you know, if there is an upset of some way, you know, a great team from Europe does not pass the group phase, for example, Inter CP Jamat, something upsets them and they don't pass, then all these things will be figured out down the line, because you will have like the jurisdictions, the masters that will be only able to participate, and then you will probably have even more better regulation of the tournaments, of the open division tournament, and even maybe have it on offline, like, you know, if you limit the amount of teams that are going to participate, then you can have them fly to a certain location, and then this is much, you know, more accurate in terms of who is better and who is worse than online play. But all these things probably are going to be figured out in the future. I mean, sure. I have faith in my prophecy skills.
Okay, do we need to add anything else?
Well, I told you so.
I told you so. How did you know?
No.
This concludes the 5th episode of. This concludes the 5th episode of Overrated. I told you so edition by Caracol. See you next time. Bye.
Yeah.